Welcome, 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 everybody. Privilege and a pleasure as always. Today, I talk to ETV, where we are joined by Shannon Morse from the Green Door Life, all the way from San Francisco Bay Area. Shannon has serviced thousands of people, locally and remote, for over 15 years now, not only in nutrition, exercise science, education, but also mindset, and something really cool that I'm excited to talk about today, which is the natural intuition techniques that she uses to harness the power of her clients' full potential. She holds space, helps them go through growth and development, and uses a lot of guided meditation as an opportunity to access the truer self, the higher self. And Shannon is also a partner of the Green Door self-development education platform, which provides bio-individual programs for nutrition, movement, intuitive development, and so on and so on. So excited for this conversation. Shannon, how you doing?
I'm doing very well and super excited. Thank you for having me. This is awesome. I have a feeling this is going to be excellent today.
Yes. Me too. Absolutely. Thank you so much. So before we get started, I want to jump in there and just kind of get to know you a little bit better. Can you tell us a little bit? Today we're talking about foundational frequency. Now, we teach a lot about energy, frequency, vibration, a quantum field, etc. So I want to know from you, what's your understanding of and how do you teach this essence of foundational frequency?
Yes. So good. It's such an interesting topic, but it's not new, so to speak. It's just kind of scrambled in a different way. So I really see the body as being spheres, each of our bodies. So we have our physical body, our emotional, our mental, our spiritual body. And if you see these spheres kind of stacked on top of themselves, if they are out of alignment, then flow can't get through. So that's essentially how I see building our foundational frequency, that if one of these is out of alignment, then we can't essentially experience flow or alignment of all of our energy centers and our frequency in general.
Okay, this is cool. Can you clarify what a sphere might mean for those who might not know what that is? For the common language, what is this? Because I get it and this is good, but yeah, take it a little bit deeper, please.
Cool. Yeah. So I see the sphere like as a circle, just a circle. Yes, that is absolutely the sphere. But thank you for asking me to clarify, because that could be taken as many different things. But I really see that the bodies are stacking on top of themselves. And I don't believe that it's necessarily always like this. I believe that it's actually flat. And so they actually are all the same thing, but we are essentially experiencing different elements of misalignment throughout our life these days. And when things are out of alignment, that we aren't able to really truly experience the potential of flow. Flow meaning pure alignment of energy moving through in all these different areas.
Awesome. I love this. Now, when you say stacked on top of one another, all the different bodies, are you talking about the mental, emotional, spiritual, etheric body, etc.?
Yes, and physical for sure.
Absolutely. Okay, so then when we look at foundational frequency, how does that play a role in finding flow and alignment within the different parts of the body?
Totally. So when I look at foundational frequency, and this is funny because we had this interview scheduled a couple of weeks ago and then it got rescheduled. But in that time that it was rescheduled, I had a real life experience of how understanding the tools of maintaining your frequency is so important. So perfect timing. We'll always have these experiences where we have either been up too long, been pushing ourselves too hard, been really like grinding and doing a little bit too much. At least in America, this is like a thing that we love to do. We love to push it really hard. And whatever that might look like, you might experience that you have physical pain, which affects your mental state, which affects your emotional state, which essentially affects your spiritual state. So when we're physically not feeling well, it's really hard to do anything else, to really be in alignment with anything else, to feel what our emotions are doing and actually to respond instead of react. When we're not physically feeling well, then it's really hard to get our mind around or our awareness around our thoughts and having the thoughts, but not them having us. So I really look at the foundational frequency as in terms of just the beginning, your physical body, like how is that being maintained so that you can better move into understanding your emotional body, move into understanding your mental body, and then finally really bringing in your spirit or your ethereal body.
Awesome. I like this. Now, is that somewhat in the order of which you work? Can we talk about the emotional, the physical body first, etc.?
Yes, it is.
Cool.
And I would say we do that more so because the individuals who come to us may not even have an understanding of the etheric or the spiritual body yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so once you are aligning your physical form, then a lot of other things just start to happen naturally. When you have this foundation of feeling better and noticing what it feels like to treat your body in such a way, it's almost like other areas just start to rise to the surface. Other areas that you may not have been aware of were there the whole time, but you couldn't feel them because you were in such a state of dis-ease physically.
And this is so spot on, because if you read a lot of ancient texts, you'll see that the physical cleansing or physical purification is always the first step to enlightenment, to healing, to whatever you're trying to achieve, right? I love that. Okay, next question for you here. On this topic that we're discussing, what then are the best or top strategies or skill sets that you would recommend to provide the best foundational frequency as such, to heal, to optimize, to perform, to achieve, to whatever?
Oh my gosh. Well, it's a massive question. And because I'm not so familiar with your audience, I'm going to make it as general and as like easily accessible as possible.
Perfect.
So the first thing, as we're talking about the physical state, is really looking at what we're putting into our body. So what we're consuming in every sense of the word. So consuming in terms of information, consuming in terms of food, consuming in terms of thought. So what we're consuming in terms of food, fueling our physical body, really looking at that. And I almost look at food as looking at the life cycle of the food, because we are then absorbing that life cycle of the food. So if we look at a certain vegetable and we're like, wow, that vegetable looks a little sad. Maybe we don't want to consume the life cycle of that one specifically. When we're looking at a vegetable that's vibrant and has these beautiful colors, we are essentially absorbing the energy of that food. And then therefore we're going to be adding that to our baseline, adding that to our sphere. So looking at what we eat, obviously moving our bodies in ways that actually feels good and is enjoyable. So you can say that some extreme athletes will do, they'll just go full force and it'll be a little bit of a different ball game. But for the general population, moving your body daily is going to just clear out and keep the energy moving, right? That energy in motion. So, and then from there, moving into the mental, right? Whatever practice it is of what you're consuming. So if you're consuming things like news, if you're consuming things like a little bit more of the negative aspects, those things are going to be in your field. So I look at, you don't have to ignore them and you can stay in the know, but there's also the element of what are you feeding yourself mentally on a daily basis? And then from there, I really find that the spiritual body just kind of drops in. It feels like from there, it's almost like you're creating a house and then welcoming a guest, and then the house is built and you're like, oh, I have a guest. Who's that? And then the guest shows up. So I hope that answers that question for a little bit.
I like it. That's great. Honestly, frequency, my audience is pretty well equipped with understanding that we are energy, frequency, and vibration as such. So I think this is good. So the first step, just to clarify, is to start to look at our physical bodies and our physical health. And of course, with your expertise and background in nutrition and exercise science, etc., same background as myself, that's where it starts often. So we get the physical stuff right, or if we haven't, we need to get it right. We could always improve, right? There are so many things that we could take out of our lifestyle that'll help us improve our lives, etc. And then we go through these different stages. I love it. What are some of the challenges that you see when people are to apply this?
Ooh, it's a good question. So what we naturally see inside of the programs that we run, which are generally 14 weeks, is that whenever you look at anything and you're looking to make a change or bring awareness to it specifically, what ends up showing up is anything that you are still coming up against in every area of your life, so to speak. So I always say that you could essentially do this with how you clean your car. But we do it with nutrition as the doorway, which also has other effects. But essentially, whenever someone else is watching you do something that you say you want to do, what ends up happening, just like when we watch a particle, right, in quantum physics, is that the state and how we behave changes. And so what we see with nutrition coaching and movement coaching and mindset coaching is when you have a coach who is there watching you, just that pure mechanism of someone else being there watching, it changes our behavior. And what ends up arising is wherever we might be stuck. So what we say is that people come to us through the doorway of nutrition, but what ends up happening is they end up realizing a new relationship to self and things that may be keeping them stuck in where they are. So that's essentially some of the things that we end up seeing. So if you have any sort of, and again, this can be with any sort of practice that you're doing on a repetitive, consistent basis. If you have imposter syndrome, if you are someone who experiences any sort of self-esteem or self-worth, or doing it right, or, you know, the type A personalities, all of these things will just arise inside of the experience, but they'll arise inside of any experience. So that's really the challenges that I see. But what people don't realize when they're in it, and this happens to all of us in every aspect of life, is that it's all a part of a cycle. So, right, we just go through it and we're like, oh, look, I'm here again. This is interesting. But if we don't realize we're in that cycle, we're going to be feeling like we're stuck and we can't get out. So I think the biggest thing is realizing that it's always going to be this cycle that just keeps rolling, right? And we just keep to give ourselves that grace and just be the witness of the cycle occurring in different ways.
I love that. And I think this is the key. You talked a lot about accountability there and having people within your field, or for those listening, the question is, and we talked about even the observer effect, which is powerful stuff. I don't know if you guys picked up on the conversation that just took place here, but the first step is to really put yourself in an environment where there's going to be accountability. Because I know just as well that, let's say I'm, going to do yoga at 6 a.m. in the morning. I'm much more likely to drive I live far away, but let's say I have to drive half an hour to do my yoga class if I know someone is there meeting me and keeping me accountable for that. So that's why I think it's so powerful to have a coach that, one, can see through the veil and see what the real problem is, two, be able to work with, you in stages, and three, has the overall understanding of how the universe works, because we are all energy, frequency, and vibration. But if you can start with the physical and work your way up, you can have profound changes. And did you guys hear what Shannon just said? It's about, in the cycle of life and seasons and whatever takes place, so you take care of your nutrition, your lifestyle, then you start taking care of your mind, then you look at your emotions, and then you work your way up to the energy that you could start to play with. Along that path, there are things that will arrive in your field, things that will show up for you. They'll arrive nonetheless, but you're able to become more conscious of them and assimilate them better when you're able to see them for what they are. And sometimes that's, let's put it this way. Sometimes we don't see it ourselves. Okay. Sometimes we need that little bit of nudge from an external observer saying, hey, have you noticed this? And what do you think is coming up for you? I love this. So for those of you watching, maybe taking some notes on what this would mean to you in your life as well. Okay, Shannon, next question. What do you think is needed to help shift the frequency of the collective as a whole? Big question.
That's such a good question. Also, I really appreciate how you just summarized all of that, because it's such a beautiful, it was really well said, and just a beautiful wrap up of that.
And please jump in and correct me if I'm incorrect. I just want to really simplify it for those who are listening as well that may not be familiar with this content.
I appreciate that for sure. And if you guys hear a little bit of a buzzing in the background, I think it might be my fan. So I just wanted to call that.
Oh, it's all good. Audio is great.
So I'm sorry. Will you repeat that question? Oh, wait, the collective.
That was your favorite joke. No, I'm just kidding.
Right.
The question is, what do you think is needed to shift the frequency of the collective as a whole?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I have multiple thoughts about this. So the first thing I guess I would say is that, we're here for a short freaking time. So one of my earliest mentors, his thing, the last thing he said to us was, be kind and have a good time.
Oh, I
So
love that. Write it down, people. Be kind and have a good time. Okay, keep going. This is gold.
it's like, if anything, every opportunity to be kind to ourselves and be kind to others is going to shift that frequency. So when we come from love, that's really all there is. And I believe that in every sense of the word. When we love ourselves, when we love others, when we love animals, when we love people we don't know, when we love people who have harmed us, when we forgive, that's a frequency. And that frequency emanates into everything that we do. It emanates into our cells, it emanates into our field, it emanates into everything that we do. And whenever I'm in like one of those times where I am feeling stuck, because we're all going to have that cycle, right? That's like part of this human cycle, is we're not always going to feel like, hey, I love everyone today, you know? But if we can bring back with just like little steps of what do we love, you know, like bring that back in, because the more we concentrate on the things that bring us joy. There was a practice I did for a while. Every morning I would wake up and I would go, does this bring me joy? And there would be certain parts of the day that just didn't. Sometimes it was relationships, sometimes it was people, sometimes it was like a meeting that I had, or even a client that I was seeing, or some sort of clothing I was wearing. It's like, if it didn't bring me joy, I would just kind of assess and go, maybe that's not for me right now. And so we can do that in all parts of our life and just continue to move from that space. That would be the simplest form of raising the collective frequency, I think.
Okay. So think about this, guys. And I love always to make this applicable for our students, right? What is it in your life right now that is not bringing you joy, or perhaps might be bringing you the opposite? You know, maybe frustration or something. Okay. Well, when you talk about joy and love and raising the energy to that point, I mean, it's really, really simple. We're here for a very short time, a remarkably short time. And many of us are living lives, as Henry David Thoreau said, of quiet desperation. We're not living a life that's aligned with the highest values. We're not living in joy. Joy on the Hawkins scale vibrates at 540 on the frequency scale. So that's love and above. And so in essence, if you want to hack this human experience, what Shannon is talking about is profound. If we can lift the energy up and just come from a place of joy and ask that question, how can I be more in love with my life today? I think this is great. Absolutely amazing. Okay, what do you feel is the starting point? So we've talked about nutrition. We start nutrition. For those out there who don't know what to do, what could be some tools for them to leverage? We don't have to go into all the details of nutrition, but maybe they are in a country they can't afford a coach, or maybe they're actually already working with the coach and they could improve it. What are some of the steps along the way that you've seen have had the greatest impact, positive impact on your clients?
Ooh, that's a good one. Okay, so as it relates to nutrition, one of the easiest and simplest things is balancing your blood sugar levels, which is not a hard thing to do. So when we balance out blood sugar levels, it improves our satiety, or our satiation throughout the day, our mood, our energy levels, our mental clarity. Balancing out blood sugar levels is an awesome life hack. And the way to do that is whenever you have a carbohydrate, which means any sort of grain or fruit or whatever it might be, you pair it with a protein and or a small amount of fat. The pairing of those two will balance out blood sugar levels. And so even if you don't have a coach, but you're going through your day and you're like, oh, it's afternoon and it's 2:30 and I feel like I'm crashing and I'm just going to have this biscuit. Is that something in Australia?
Oh, yeah. Cookie.
A cookie. Okay, I lived in New Zealand and those are biscuits. So anyways, so if you're having one of those moments, like make sure you add some sort of fat and or protein with it. That would be one of the very simplest ways. The other is like the life cycle that I was talking about. You are consuming the life cycle, generally speaking, of something that was alive at some time. So even looking at the life cycle and looking at how you're consuming it in that way, because it makes a really big difference. It's also you're building a relationship with this other thing that you're about to put into your body. And that alone has a really powerful impact. And it solicits generally like a sense of gratitude. It's just right out of the gate. Like, wow, you have had your own life and now I am taking it and adding it to mine. So I'm grateful.
This is cool. I love this. Once I read, I'm a nutritionist as well, and was a personal trainer for 12 years, and then shifted into the whole quantum space. So very similar kind of journey to yourself, I would imagine. And once, when I can't remember, this was at university where it was, but someone once told me that the food is either dead, dying, or alive. So there's living food, dying food, or dead food. And by that, I don't mean if the vegetable is still alive or not. I mean as to its vibration, as to its frequency. Is it already dead? Is it dying? Or is it vibrant? I would love to learn a little bit about how you see that, and also what you do in your life. Because yes, we've talked about where to start, nutrition and movement and, the basics. We've talked about that. We've talked about frequency. I love it. Now let's take it to that level. What about those people who are after peak performance? What are some hacks that you would say would be, hey, listen, these are the top 2 things that you need to apply if you want to take your life to a level of peak performance?
Ooh-wee. These are such good questions. And I have so many thoughts on them. We actually just did a workshop on peak performance. So we're right on cue here. So realistically, I mean, it's nutrition, depending on whatever your sport is, because we work with a lot of elite athletes. Also some in the Olympics, which is really fun. So inside of that, my biggest thing, and most athletes should know this, but it really is about how you're planning and consistency, and also your ability to adjust and readjust when something doesn't go the way that you anticipated that it would. To not see failure as failure, but to actually move into, this is an opportunity to learn, and what am I going to do next time? But inside of that, I mean, what I do for me, and I've been in different types of athletics for an extended period of time. The most difficult was single point trapeze, which is a ridiculous thing to do in circus. It's like, and I did that for about 7 years. And inside of that training, my nutrition had to be dialed in. My training had to be dialed in. And when I say dialed in, I mean that everything is consistent. The consistency of the operation is key. And I see that in terms of like circling it back to the alignment of the spheres.
Mm-hmm.
The more we basically take a trip around that ring, the stronger it gets. So whatever your goal is, you just got to keep doing it over and over and over and over and over again until it becomes flow, and until the mind isn't a part of the experience anymore. It's just pure energy and motion.
This is cool. Okay, so we're talking about consistency and planning. I've talked to this for so many years. I say, fail to plan, you're planning to fail. How can we, for those of you listening, watching, how can you right now plan ahead? Like on Sunday, plan your nutrition for Monday, Tuesday, and so on and so forth. I'm a bit over the top on this, but I love it, because when I go to, say I go to work, I've got my bag, I've got my fruit, I've got my shake, I've got my everything, my nuts, whatever I might be eating, and then prepping my food, because if we don't, then obviously, we're just going to eat whatever's in our vicinity, which is not a good thing. All right, Shannon, I'm going to lift this up one more time and ask you the big final question. You ready for it? All right, here we go. This is the question. I want you now to imagine that you're on this massive stage, okay, this world stage, and you've got people watching in the millions. They're watching on their TVs in their countries, and they're there live with you as well. And you step up and you suddenly realize that this is the moment. This is the moment where you get to share your message with the world. Take a moment, take a breath, whatever you need. And when you're ready, feel free to share your message with the world.
I think my message is in development. And Laura also knows this. I think my message is actually a channel that comes through. So, but for this specific purpose, the message, I have this written on my wall. It's God is here, is love, is flow, is now. God is here, is love, is flow, is now.
Okay, I'm going to write that down, because that's cool.
So it's not linear, it's flat. God is
What is here is
love
Flow
is
is love.
God is here, is love, is flow, is now.
And I love that there's a lot of is. It is that it is all that is. Beautiful. God is here, is love, is flow, is now. This reminds me, this is so good. Credit to the creator, right? And so this reminds me, I started writing a book a little while ago. I haven't finished it.
Mhm.
And it was about peak performance and about how to become successful in business, in money, in life, whatever. And I realized, hang on, someone created all of this.
Mm.
And so if that's where energy comes from, if that's where everything emanates from, then why on earth, as athletes or as whatever, are we not tapping into the ultimate source of consciousness beyond space and time? That is the ultimate hack for me in life. So God is here, is love, is flow, is now. This is absolutely beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Any final words to our audience, sister?
I don't think so. This was awesome. And I love that we're in the conversation together. This is something that we made a t-shirt about. It's like people who are in the conversation, which is actually the conversation that is having you, if that makes sense. It is the field of information that is always occurring, and it's actually having us in a way. So
Oh, absolutely. And we get to experience and explore. How cool is that?
yes, it is so cool. It is so
Very,
cool.
very
I'm
cool.
so thankful. It's really a pleasure to meet you. I hope it was helpful for those of you who are watching.
More than helpful, and it's about to get more helpful. I want people to know where to go and find you. Where can they go to find out more about you, to learn about you, to inquire about your services or whatever it might be?
You can go to www.thegreendoorlife.com, or Instagram is really a very helpful way. So thegreendoor.life. And the green door is actually the color of the heart chakra. So that is why we named it that. It's that doorway. So would love to help and just meet anyone who is feeling in alignment with this kind of thing. We really believe that when people are listening to the message and it's like, oh my gosh, I want to know more about that, then it's in alignment for you. That call is there for a reason. So we're excited to talk to people who are hearing that call.
I love that. And it kind of also looks like we're going through a interesting process, as a humanity as a whole. I don't know if it's called the awakening or whatever you want to call it, but I don't, and hope you guys picked it up. But what Shannon has been talking about, as far as I'm concerned, are fundamental principles that are non-negotiables for where we're heading. It's about cleaning up our vessel, cleaning up our emotions, raising the emotions to a place of love and gratitude, looking at the way we are interacting with the world and what we're feeding our mind. And eventually, I loved how you ended it, where I love to end it, which is it's about remembering who we are and where we're from. God is here, is love, is flow, is now. Just took it right to level 7 and dropped it right in the field at the end, sister. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Boom. There it is. Okay, go and check out Shannon Morse. Go check out the Green Door Life. And thank you so much again, sister, for your time today. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you for showing up for us, and thank you for sharing your wisdom and your goal today.
Thank you as well for holding the space and for all the great questions. There's some solid questions.
Good fun.
Yes.
God bless, and chat to you soon. Bye.